everybody, it's Grandpa Humbke back for his weekly video on Tuesday, March 23rd, 2021. After being principal of J.F. Dion School on the Fishing Lake Métis Colony for 1965-66, our family of four returned to Edmonton, and I resumed attendance at the University of Alberta for summer school. I took Geography 200 plus Economics 200. We had managed to rent an old 3-story house close to the university, which consisted of 2 bedrooms in the basement, 5 bedrooms and a washroom on the 2nd floor, and a large room on the 3rd floor. Our family occupied the main floor where Roxanne and Nadine had a bedroom. The living room was humongous and had a large sliding wall that separated the room in two, so we closed it permanently, and our bedroom was in the front end of the house. We turned it into a boarding house for 5 girl roomers on the 2nd floor, 4 guys rooming on the 3rd floor, 2 of my brothers going to Nate, and 1 of my Edinburgh students stayed in the basement. And the 4 of us on the main floor made a total of 16 individuals living in the house. It was challenging at times to collect the rent from those upstairs, and once I took a Ducati motorcycle for past due rent. Kathy was cooking for the 7 of us, while I kept the upper 2 floors full and under control. There were some interesting times, like when one of the guys from upstairs with a mental problem took all his clothes off and went running outside in the middle of the day. The police caught him and brought him back to get his clothes. Never saw him again. I got a license and drove a taxi for a yellow cab for the next 2 years. We were staying in Edmonton. On the side, I was a hotel detective for the new Chateau Lacombe on weekend nights. I had to dress in a suit and tie, supervise the activities of 2 security guards, prevent theft by staff, move cash between the different areas in the hotel, and handle complaints. It could get a little tense at times, as football teams used to stay there and celebrate their wins to the wee hours. But I managed. That year at U of A, I fell in love with philosophy and ended up taking existentialism in an attempt to find meaning in my life. My other courses included creativity, social psychology, educational psychology, and the sociology of work. My marks were not the best, but I did take a required exam for entering graduate studies and was accepted into the Masters in Educational Administration beginning in September 1967. I also joined the Edmonton Junior Chamber of Commerce and became Rookie of the Year for my contribution in publishing our weekly and monthly publications. There were about 200 JCs who were young men looking for opportunities which would help them gain required experience and job skills. They did this by planning projects and actually accomplishing the project's objectives. For example, the Edmonton JCs sponsored the Mukluk Mardi Gras Festival. Mukluk Mardi Gras was an Edmonton winter festival that every child who grew up in the 1960s remembers vividly. The carnival included a snow parade down Jasper Avenue, dog sled races, skiing, hockey, speed skating, and cross-country toboggan races. There were rock bands, concerts, and follies in various venues, and a carnival queen was crowned each year. Schools in Edmonton and community leagues participated by having similar snow and ice activities in their local communities. It was truly a city-wide event. The carnival in 1967 ran from February 4th to 12th, was especially remarkable by the large number of events held, as it was part of the Canadian Centennial activities in Edmonton. Polar Park at the exhibition grounds featured rides, concessions, and grandstand performances. Churchill Square featured daily entertainment. The competition for King of the North included snowshoe sprints, power toboggans, keg racing, canoe portaging, axe and harpoon throwing, log chopping, and other strongmen events. The last Mardi Gras was in 1968. Attempts to revive the festival in the 1980s were not successful. Mardi Gras, one of our fond memories of winter in Edmonton. 1967 was Canada's 100th birthday, and the Council of Christians and Jews hosted a 10-day conference at Lévis near Quebec City, Quebec. Individuals of every race, heritage, and culture across Canada were represented. As a JC, I was picked, and along with an Edmonton police officer, were chosen to represent Edmonton and ourselves. For me, it was a free 3-day, 3,000-kilometer trip by train from Edmonton to Quebec City and back, plus 10 days in a fancy retreat center. It was the first time I realized just how vast and different Canada was physically. In Lévis, about 150 remarkably diverse Canadians held numerous small group meetings to intimately discuss relationships between Canadians. The wine and dining were superb, and my eyes were opened to the wide variety of individuals, male and female adults, and lifestyles from St. John's, Newfoundland to Victoria, British Columbia, and north to Inuvik, Northwest Territories. I shared a room with a Black minister from Halifax, and we had many conversations that changed my view about Canada. At the time, I did not believe we would reach a consensus on a plan to decrease discrimination, but we did. Everyone agreed after 10 days of heated discussion that in order to decrease discrimination between Canadians, we as individuals and the Canadian governments should publicize, educate, and support the benefits of intercultural marriage. If two individuals from different cultures and racial backgrounds were to marry, they would likely have children, that their grandparents and relatives would accept, know well, and love. Over the years, discrimination would automatically decrease. I return home with a new, improved attitude towards all other cultures and races, and definitely expanded my friendship and connections with different Canadians. It was a lot of time and effort belonging to the JCs. I was spending as much time at the Edmonton JC's office as I did at the university. But I believed it changed me personally more than going to university did. I will talk more about time as a JC in the next video. Back in May and June of 1965, you may recall, I spent 2 months as principal of a Northland School Division school in Fort McKay. Here it was 2 years later, and I was offered the same opportunity. The pay was so good, I just had to take it so we could make it through the first year, 1967-68, of the Masters of Education Administration graduate program on the $2,400 stipend I was to receive. 2 years of development had resulted in great changes to Fort McMurray and Fort McKay. There was now an all-weather gravel road to Fort McMurray, and from there to Fort McKay by way of bridges over the Athabasca and McKay rivers. As soon as I wrote final exams at the end of April 1967, I packed a stereo, precious books, and items to pass the time in isolation, plus a couple of suitcases into Old Bertha and headed north. Wandering River is the last service station on Highway 63 before reaching Fort McMurray 200 kilometers north. Halfway from there to Fort McMurray, Old Bertha gasped her final breath and collapsed. I managed to get her as far off to the side of the road as possible and locked my precious belongings in the trunk. A trucker had stopped and luckily had enough room for me and 2 suitcases. So I managed to get to Fort McMurray the same day. There I phoned Dad, and he said he would come up with his truck and pull the car to Fort McMurray the next day. I was scheduled to start work in Fort McKay the next morning, so I got another 3-kilometer ride by car and finally got to Fort McKay that night. The next day, I started work while Mom and Dad towed Old Bertha the last 100 kilometers to Fort McMurray. The car had been broken into and the trunk pried open, so anything of value was gone. On top of that, the garage said it was not worth fixing. So they disposed of Old Bertha and drove further north to see me in Fort McKay. I could not have had better parents. Here I am, the black sheep in the family, causing them the most concern, but they were always forgiving and showing their love. I have been truly fortunate. There were no regular phones in Fort McKay, so on May 3rd, I received an urgent call over the Hudson Bay radio telephone that I was the proud father of an 8-pound, 1-ounce baby girl, Naomi Claire Humbke. Clara, Kathy's mum, and now Naomi's grandmother, was also born on May 8th, only in 1906. Kathy and Naomi were doing well in the university hospital, and my mum was in Edmonton looking after Roxanne and Nadine. So much had happened in the last few days. The time passed slowly, but work kept me busy, and I played a lot of cards. On June the 30th, I caught the bus back to Edmonton and was so relieved to be with Kathy and our 3 daughters once more. It didn't even bother me that I immediately had to start 2 courses at summer school on July the 2nd, because they were the last 2 courses for a degree. I was granted a Bachelor of Education on November the 4th, 1967. It had taken me 3 full terms and 4 summer schools to get a Junior E certificate and a Bachelor of Education degree. That brings me to the end of September 1967. Next week, I continue the story of our life in Edmonton as I enter postgraduate studies at the University of Alberta. Bye for now and stay safe.